Hello, this is Rick of the Rickster Scope. I'm an astrologer, and today we're going to discuss the August 27, 28 lunar eclipse in Pisces. I say 27th, 28th because on the west coast, uh, the eclipse is at its peak at a little after 9 p.m. But on the East Coast, it's a little bit after 12. So it'll either be the 27th or 28th, depending on where you are. And this eclipse is a lunar eclipse. It's actually a partial lunar eclipse. Hang on. The month of September is eclipse season. Uh, and we've already had one eclipse, the solar eclipse. And this second eclipse is a partial lunar eclipse, which occurs at about 4 degrees Pisces. It is a partial lunar eclipse, but it's a very deep one because at its peak, you're only going to be able to see just a little bit of the moon. It'll be 96 point, the moon will be 96.2% covered at its peak during this eclipse. And this eclipse uh, is visible in North and South America and parts of Europe and Asia. It's in Pisces, so it affects spiritual issues, the oil and gas industry, the motion picture industry, spiritual issues. And the positive side of Pisces is spirituality and selfless compassion and giving. The negative side would be deception, depression, delusion, fraud, and perhaps drug and alcohol abuse, but under the right conditions. The right conditions have to be prevailing for that to be the case. Um, this eclipse will affect you if you have planets between 2 and 6 degrees of Pisces and or Virgo. Uh, Eclipses are like a step up in intensity and fatefulness, I guess, is another word we can use. Its fated quality is intensified above a full moon. And if a total eclipse is one full step up from a full moon, then this partial eclipse is probably going to be 80 or 90% up from that. 80 to 90% of the step up. So it's still worth paying very close attention to it. It's serious business. And this eclipse is basically a mess. For the United States, this eclipse shows Mars in the second house. So actions taken, financial actions taken. And Saturn is in the 11th house and squaring this Mars position. So our friends are not very happy about the financial decisions that our leaders have made. And they're willing to stand firm against them too. However, those same actions have benefited our leaders because this Mars position trines the moon in the 10th and the sun in the 4th. So our leaders benefited, and large corporations and the wealthy have benefited as well. But the American people have suffered. And there are two configurations in this chart over Washington, D.C. at the time of the eclipse that are very concerning. They're very difficult configurations, and one is a T square with the moon in Pisces, Uranus in Gemini in the 12th, and of course, the sun in Virgo and in the 4th. That's a very difficult configuration and does not bode well uh, for our future if we remain on the same course. And there's also a yod in this chart. We have Neptune in Aries, sextiling Pluto in Aquarius, and both of those are in conjunct the Sun and Mercury in Virgo. That's not a very good. That's a very hard configuration as well, and a very difficult one. And so, what this chart is basically saying to me is that we need to make some big, radical, intense changes in what we're doing because what we have been doing is not working. I say that because Uranus in Gemini and in the 12th is trining Pluto in Aquarius. And Aquarius is the people because the moon in the USA charts and all of them is in Aquarius. And so we do have Pluto is in Aquarius now. And so we do have the power to make our lives better, but we have to choose to do so. And that means making some big changes. That's Uranus in Gemini. So we're going to have to make some big changes in November. That's what it's pointing to. Big changes in November. And if we fail to do so, it's not going to be a pretty picture. That would mean American families and children would continue to suffer. So we better heed the message and make those changes. That means turning some pretty red states blue. And it looks like that might happen, but that's a pretty radical change to hear about Texas or Iowa or Ohio turning blue. That's pretty radical, but that's what we need to happen. And I'll mention one other thing. Venus is in the 5th house in Libra, and it is in opposition to Saturn in this chart. So our relationship suffers, have been suffering, and will continue to if we don't change our ways. And it's also in the 5th house, and that's where I get that children will be affected if we don't make the changes that are necessary. So that's what I see in this chart. There's a lot more in this chart, but it would take a long time. It would, and I don't really have the time to list every single thing that's going on in this chart. It's a mess, to put it mildly. But I'm going to close it for now. And the big theme of this chart, again, is big changes. Let's make them and make things better. Thank you for listening to this video. And if you liked it, please like it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, the Richter Scope. And I will close for now. If you have any questions or comments to make, please leave them in the comments section. And I will also leave a URL to my blog post, which also has this chart over Washington, D.C., and you can see for yourself. Astrologers can see for themselves, and anyone else that wants to look at it can as well. I'll close for now. Thank you very much for watching.